Been an owner of my barbershop for 16 years. We started that business back in April of 2004. We've relocated on several different times, probably about 5 times. We've relocated to different areas, and Untouchable Cuts is still existing. Also have another barbershop that's been open roughly about 6 years, which is currently located on 11th and M in the Hilltop area, and that one's called Flawless Cuts. So I think when it first hit, we were just pretty much functioning in a normal form because it wasn't yet clear as to if barbers could still cut hair or not. But once Governor Inslee made it clear that we were no longer able to legally operate, we were pretty much shut down from like June 5th until, excuse me, not June 5th, March 17th until June 5th. And so one thing you got to keep in mind is that I have several different barbers that work there that are independent contractors. They're not employees. And then also me, myself, I work for myself. And so you're talking about a lack of income that was pretty much lacking, from March until June. Then also, you're not only losing money, but you're also losing clientele, because once Governor Inslee did approve barbershops, people have been hesitant in returning back to the barbershop just from extreme concerns about getting sick. And so, to be honest, the effects, I've probably temporarily or perpetually lost clientele because a lot of the people that I am servicing right now, it's probably only about, I would say, a quarter to 35% of my original clientele. It's actually a lot of new people, which is fine. Some folks got replaced, but not only me, but my other barbers themselves, it all pretty much took everybody some time to regather their clients. And then my other barbershop, with all that time being pretty much off, and all that time that one of the barbers couldn't work, he lost a lot of business. And so it kind of caused him to transition from independent contracting as a barber into going and getting a job. And so, when you talk about me being a business owner of a barbershop and those that work there as independent contractors, the effect of it has definitely slowed down business. But then again, once we were able to start back, we've been able to slowly get back to at least close to where we were in recovering our clientele. Other than that, it's been fine. It's been fine, When we were once again allowed to go back into serving, I had to read a lot of guidelines and instructions as to what we can and cannot do. And also, there was not as much in-depth information as it is now back in June 5th compared to June 5th. So anyways, I took it upon myself just to make sure that we spread it out like waiting chairs. We took a lot of waiting chairs out, so that anybody who does have to wait inside of the barbershop will be socially distant from each other, as well as we have a booking app called The Cut that we use, which is a platform for barbers and stylists. And so that makes things a little bit more controlled when we're able to have folks book online. And then we're also able to communicate with them through the app or via text and tell them when it is their turn, because we try not to allow too many people waiting inside while waiting to get a haircut. So generally the idea is to leave one individual waiting in the car, and the other individual in the chair. And then if the capacity is not at its fullest capacity of waiting, then we'll at least allow one client to wait in the lobby and then one in the chair. Other than that, we've asked them to wash their hands before we start servicing them. We do require a mask, when coming inside. No different than the restaurant, though. We do also, allow them to take their mask off while they sit in the chair, because when you're barbering, people need beard trims, and whatnot. But other than that, once again, using that app, we're able to communicate with them through a mask and with them any concerns or guidelines that we may be concerned about. For instance, I'm able to put in the text, if anybody's feeling sick, please do not come to get a haircut or reschedule, and we're pretty, sometimes it can be comical, but it is a serious matter. And so if we do see somebody coughing in the shop, we question them, say, hey, man, are you all right? Do you have your mask? So we're very careful to make sure that everyone's comfortable, in the barbershop, and no one's in fear of getting COVID. Once again, it's one of those things where everybody's been forced to be responsible, as well as cautious themselves, to track themselves and ask themselves before going to a barbershop or a local boutique or a grocery store, etc. Am I sick? Am I feeling feverish? Have I confirmed that if I have COVID or not because of these symptoms? It's up to them to confirm that if they are feeling like that or not. And it is the responsible thing to do, is to, if you feel like you're sick, to cancel your appointment, to not coming to our facility, or if you've had a family member who recently was tested positive for COVID, for you to go get tested yourself, prior to, coming into our facility. But other than that, just making sure that they, sanitize their hands, wear their mask, and just make sure that, they don't expose us, which are considered to be frontliners, to the possibility of getting COVID, and just respecting our guidelines, not giving us problems or issues if we say we can't have too many people waiting inside of our facility, and actually being understanding to our process, currently right now. So that would definitely help for sure. And it's not far-fetched, but I've kind of considered some things inwardly with my own health. And I've shared with others that you shouldn't wait until you get a vaccine to prevent yourself from getting a virus or to even heal a virus. But my comprehension is that you should heal your immune system, and be proactive and not reactive, to this current virus and pandemic that we are amongst. And so I practice a healthy lifestyle, cardio and sweating and releasing toxins, and building up my immune system, building up my respiratory system, and along with that lifestyle, implementing the nutrition that is important, trying to eat enough greens and berries, and drinking probiotics, all those types of things that supports a immune system and equips it to protect you from any virus. Those are the things that I try to practice to ensure that there's a lower risk for me to get sick, as well as my family, and so we all try to practice these things, and careful to take multivitamins every day. I take from vitamin A all the way up until E, A, B, C, D, and E, and all of these vitamins are intended to protect my immune system and to keep me healthy, and being careful of the things that I consume that could possibly weaken my immune system. And so, what healthy means to me is to not have a reactive mindset concerning health, but more or less a proactive mindset, which consists of living a healthy lifestyle. It has to be implemented. It has to be implemented. So that's what that means to me. What comes to my head is one, I'm totally aware of what it means to live in um, a low income area. That's where I've come from, and I've experienced that, in my youth. And along with that, when living in low income housing or low income areas, there's a mentality that you organically form, as well as you mentioned, there's some healthcare that is not as available to you as others. Now, I am aware of Obamacare, and there's been several others who are aware of it and who has used it. But back in the '90s, with living with my mother and my family, living on Section 8, having a single mother, having one income, um, and also working for herself and probably not having the best of benefits to support her children's health, the effects of that, um, for me, it just became something normal to not have health care. And so you start to build this tolerance of it's kind of like a shake it off mentality, or I'm not hurt, or I don't need a doctor. I'll heal myself, because there's not the ideal of consistent, regular checkups. So when living in some of these types of conditions, you form a mentality and a tolerance for unhealthy conditions. And when that's formed, you also build habits as well. And so it's just this concept that things are rough. I'm in a lower grade area. We don't have the tools or sufficient amount of care, and so we'll get through it eventually one day. And so I know what that's like. Now, as of today, compared to back then, once again, you have what you call Obamacare, which is available to many. And then also after reading the report, it talked about a younger age of majority or predominantly, the Black community, natives, as well as Hispanics. It was a younger age range, that was in between that 20 to 37. And so that there are some resources that have been gate kept with us outside of the gate. And so I'm saying all that to say that, once again, I also think it's the mentality of our minorities, concerning that range. And also, when you talk about COVID, because that's what we're talking about, and it, overtaking a great percentage of our community, if we're not equipping ourselves, once again, with the right nutrients, and if we're not changing the way we think, and if we're putting things into our body that's weakening our immune system and makes us more susceptible to get sick, then we'll just continue to see those numbers rise in our community. Now, I'm saying that to also say this. I share with other individuals that are peers and other people of color like you and me that we should never feel inferior to go into the neighborhoods or the suburbs where they do put health food stores. They put liquor stores and fast food uh, restaurants, right, and corner stores in your low income areas, but they put Whole Foods and Trader Joe's in places like University Place. That we should never feel that those places are not for us just because they're not in our neighborhood. We have to become a little bit more invasive, you know, and go into those neighborhoods where they're putting the health foods at, in the Whole Foods and the Trader Joe's, and go get those healthy options, because there's always a healthier option to help us to build up our immune system and the well-being of our health, to help prevent us from getting sick. And then to also know that you have a right to that particular access to go and get those necessary nutrients to help you live longer, you know, because there's times you can walk into some of those stores and the residents or the locals that do live in those neighborhoods, they will give you this impression like, one, how did you find this place? And two, do you live in this neighborhood? Those stores are only for them. And so we can't let even that alone be a determining factor in how the mentality that says the health food stores or healthy eating is for white people or for other people that's not of color. It's for everybody, you know, it's for everyone. And so I'm not going to be long-winded, but that's been like one of my bottom line responses. Because when you talk about underlying conditions, and when you talk about the understanding of knowing that these cases are not because of hereditary, then that means that there's some behaviors that are providing an open door for any virus to come in. And this small segment of conversation we're having right now, we don't have enough of these in our own communities. We don't talk about health enough in our own communities. We don't talk about wealth building enough in our own communities. These conversations have to be had more to raise a greater awareness. And once the mentality changes, which stems from exposure from this type of information, then it is possible you'll see those numbers come down with any type of sickness or disease.